Hello and welcome to World Business Special. Now, the Asian Development Bank is a multilateral organisation with a mission to promote economic growth, eliminate poverty, protect the planet and build regional cooperation. 69 nations are members, one of them is Azerbaijan, and back in June the Vice President of the bank came to Baku for high-level talks with the government. That sets the stage for a new 5-year country partnership strategy, an action plan for the next 4 years. And it comes at such an important time to try and turbocharge progress, not just here in Azerbaijan, but with initiatives that also boost the wider region. Well, today we meet the lady leading that charge, ADB's country director for Azerbaijan, Ms. Sania Jarani Jamal. Well, Sania, thank you for inviting us in. And tell us more about this very ambitious country partnership strategy. What are the core priorities?
Well, thank you, Guy, for joining me this morning. Yes, indeed, we do have an ambitious strategy, and I'm very glad to share that it was approved on the 29th of July this year. This takes a long time in the making. It's about 2 years, but the key priorities for us are really quite simply two. One is to help the country become a more diversified economy. Second, to promote a more connected economy, and also to ensure that the benefits of this development are shared more broadly. And as we were developing the strategy, we thought very deeply about how we should approach it. So there are really three main messages for me and my team. One is that in whatever work we do, we ensure that we have value creation. Secondly, that we build resilience, both in terms of climate change, but also in terms of economic changes that are occurring. And lastly, to ensure integration so that all parts of the country and society benefit from our work.
And so much, we were talking off camera, so much has changed, hasn't it, in the last few years? The geopolitical landscape, some of those mega challenges have intensified. Tell us a bit about how the strategy is shifting, looking 4 or 5 years ahead.
So I think things are looking, I mean, although I agree with you, geopolitically, it's a lot of moving parts, from tariffs impositions to, changing trade relations, to, again, a lot of events, climatic events and political changes around the world. But I think for Azerbaijan and the region, it's looking pretty positive. And for us, in terms of our strategy, the focus has continued to be on diversifying the economy. But I think there are some important shifts which build on the good work we did over the last 5 years. And the important shifts are that we are looking more at private sector development. We're also looking at digital transformation and also building more climate resilience. But as you will see in our country's strategy, one of the key things is flexibility. And this is something we've learned from the pandemic, that you can go in with a plan of action, but we need to be a very agile and adaptable organization in terms of how we support our countries in these changing circumstances.
And of course, your strategy is all-encompassing of many different sectors. Just tell us about how each sector differs slightly, because of course, each industry will need a slightly different strategy, slightly different treatment really to maximise the benefits economically.
So true, and I think what we do best is that we help the governments that we work with create a better enabling environment. And what do I mean by that? I think the first focus is on governance and on public sector management. So we do that, for instance, through regulatory reform or legal reforms that the governments are leading and require some technical assistance on. Secondly, we help a lot with infrastructure development. This is core function of the government. So in terms of sectors, this will involve connectivity, which could be rail or digital or other forms of transportation. We also look at energy systems. We look at water supply systems. So that's on the infrastructure side. And thirdly, of course, we look at human resource development, which is a very core resource. So it's not a sector per se, but it's an important area of focus for us.
Yeah, and as you say, one of those key areas that cuts across different sectors is green energy, hugely important to the planet, hugely important to this country and this region. How is ADB supporting Azerbaijan's green energy ambitions?
Yes, so as you know, traditionally the country has benefited a lot from its oil and gas resources. Of course, they're also conscious, I think, that we need to have not all our eggs in one basket, and so the economy has been diversifying. About 68% of Azerbaijan's GDP is in fact generated from non-oil and gas, but most of its exports earnings are coming from the hydrocarbons. So in that regard, the government has a very ambitious agenda of promoting renewable energy. And we are supporting them with private sector investments in solar projects. We're also looking at offshore wind development. And indeed, we're also looking at a very exciting regional project, the Trans-Caspian cable project, where at the moment it's just under a feasibility study. But we hope that in the future, we will have green energy exports from Central Asia through Azerbaijan onto different parts of the world, starting with Europe. And this is not a new idea. We're having some similar work being done in Southeast Asia, where many less developed countries are thinking of a regional grid where they will export power to more developed economies such as Singapore.
And just on that sense of regional connectivity, a lot of work that goes on in Azerbaijan obviously benefits the wider region. Strategically though, how do you balance the need for local development with creating more and more of that regional connectivity?
Yes, so one of the things that really distinguishes the Asian Development Bank, I think, from other institutions is our focus on regional cooperation. It's a very prominent part of our charter, and it's something that I think we all strive to promote. And hence, I think, as more and more, interestingly, Guy, earlier on, a lot of issues were country-specific, but we see that there are a lot of global public goods and indeed regional public goods. So let me give you an example. For instance, with climate change, we are seeing water scarcity issues in many countries, and that requires a regional cooperation approach. And hence, while we may do work in specific countries in a certain area, but for water issues, for instance, we would be talking to many different countries and seeing how a joint action can benefit them. Similarly, as I mentioned the example with renewable energy, that will require a lot of regional cooperation, and I'm very happy to observe that that has been happening in the region in any case. For instance, between Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan on the Trans-Caspian cable, where a MOU was signed recently.
Now, you're obviously a multilateral organisation. Relationships with government are obviously absolutely key to your work. But tell us about the private sector and the role that individual companies, entrepreneurs, academia perhaps, the role that they play in helping to drive prosperity and growth.
Yes. So we do engage with governments in terms of setting the overall development priorities and understanding them and supporting them. But of course, economies are driven by many diverse partners. And you rightly mentioned private sector partners, whether these are small and medium enterprises, microfinance institutions, or large corporations, all have a part to play in creating the products and services that are in demand globally or perhaps locally or regionally. So we do engage with them formally in our consultations and also in terms of the products that we offer. So for instance, we work with commercial banks to offer lines of credit for SME financing. With academia, our work on knowledge and research is quite critical. So we will be expanding on that, for instance, creating networks of economists. We also, of course, have our regional teams come out and talk to academia and other partners. So very much so. I think also we are working with the holding companies, AIH and ASCON, which have many SOEs under them. And of course, looking at corporatization changes that these agencies are leading, which then will open up private sector opportunities and supply chains.
It's a hugely ambitious strategy, a huge amount of work to do over the next 4 years. If you are a dean of a university or an entrepreneur, a business leader watching this, what would be your message to them about how to get involved and support the strategy?
Yeah, so I think the key is to come and speak with us. That would be wonderful. And I have to say, while the strategy is ambitious, it is grounded in some very concrete programs and projects. So we are, we do convert the strategy into concrete programs. And for deans of universities, for instance, we do engage with them. If they have any research opportunity, they can get in touch with us. We are also happy to participate in panel discussions to more clearly outline the work we are doing. We're happy to share our research findings with them. With the private sector, the door is always open, and when our senior management visits, for instance, we've had our Vice President of Operations visit us in June. We are having our Vice President of Private Sector Operations and Markets visiting at the end of this month. And at that time, we hold roundtables, we have consultations with private sector partners. And those are opportunities where we more formally engage on their needs.
Well, Sonia, we wish you and your team every success, and we look forward to further updates as this strategy is played out. Thank you very much for joining us on AnewZ.
Thank you very much.